We're living through a complete rewiring of society, a massive shift in how we work, live, and connect with each other. But in this brand new digital world, what are the rules? Well, that's what we're here to decode.
You ever get that feeling like you're trying to keep up in a game where the rulebook just seems to change overnight? You are definitely not alone. It's a feeling a lot of us have because, well, for the most part, it's actually true. To put it simply, the fundamental rules of how our society works have been completely rewritten. What worked just a decade ago in business, in how we talk to each other, in life, a lot of it just doesn't apply anymore. So the big question is, why? It's not just about flashy new gadgets or faster internet. No, the real transformation, the real game changer is that a whole new generation, born and raised in this digital world, is now setting the pace. So let's meet these new players. We're talking about the first true digital natives, a generation that has literally never known a world without the internet. And believe me, that changes everything. Meet Generation Z. Now think about this. Unlike older generations who had to learn technology, for Gen Z, being hyper-connected isn't something they do. It's just a constant state of being. And that shapes pretty much everything about how they think and how they act.
And what's really fascinating is when you compare them to millennials, the generation right before them. You'd think they'd be similar, but Gen Z is almost like a throwback generation. They are incredibly pragmatic. While millennials often saw college debt as a part of life, Gen Z wants to avoid it at all costs. While millennials were all about spending on experiences, Gen Z is laser-focused on saving money.
So, these attitudes bubble up into some key characteristics. They're super savvy consumers. They can spot an ad a mile away. They're responsible self-starters, ready to work and build their own security. They're also pretty risk-averse, which makes sense because they've seen how quickly things can change. And that makes them incredibly adaptable. And of course, they are tech-enabled to the core.
We've all heard about Gen Z's supposed 8-second detention span, and it's easy to write that off as a bad thing. But what if we're looking at it all wrong? What if it's actually a kind of superpower? It's made them masters of multitasking, able to filter insane amounts of information and just thrive in the kind of chaotic environments that are now the norm for all of us.
So, you see, this is so much bigger than just how people shop or what they post online. This new generation is bringing a completely different way of thinking into the workplace, and it's reshaping our businesses from the inside out. This quote from Bruce Nussbaum just nails it. The biggest, most important innovation happening right now isn't some new device, it's a new mindset. It's a whole new way of looking at problems and organizing ourselves to solve them.
And that new mindset, it has a name: agile thinking. Look at that definition. Does it sound familiar? It's all about being able to respond to change super quickly, learning from feedback, and constantly improving. It's basically the operating system of a generation that grew up as adaptable self-starters. And this isn't just some corporate buzzword, it's a real collection of traits. It's about being pragmatic, always wanting to learn more. And this is a big one, a willingness to fail, but to see that failure as a lesson, and then just try again. These are the principles that are driving the most innovative companies today.
Okay, so this shift in thinking, this new behavior, all driven by technology, it didn't just stay inside office walls or with one generation. Nope. It has created a completely new cultural landscape for every single one of us. Welcome to the era of digital culture. This is what you get when disruptive, persuasive technology completely reshapes how we act and interact as a society. And it's not something you can opt out of. It's just the environment we're all living in now. And you can see its fingerprints everywhere. Think about it. How we pay for coffee, how we shop for groceries, how we get our news, how we watch movies, even how we connect with our own families. Every single one of these basic daily activities has been totally transformed. Take a look at this number, 86. What do you think that represents? It's the average number of times young adults check their phones every single day. That right there, that is the heartbeat of our always-on culture. And this brings us to a really critical point. There is a very, very fine line between using these amazing tools and being used by them. For a lot of people, being digitally native has quietly tipped over into being digitally dependent, where the idea of disconnecting feels almost impossible. So how do we even begin to navigate this complex, interconnected, and, let's be honest, sometimes overwhelming your world? We need a new tool for understanding it all, one that helps us see the connections instead of just all the individual little pieces. And that tool is called systems thinking. The core idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of breaking problems down into smaller and smaller pieces, it forces us to zoom out and see how everything is connected, how all the different parts interact with each other to create the whole.
Now, this is a huge shift from how most of us were taught to think. We're trained in analysis, right? To break things down into bite-sized pieces. But systems thinking does the exact opposite. It's all about seeing the big picture and understanding the relationships between the parts. To make this really concrete, let's ask a simple question. When you look at something, is it just a random collection of stuff, a heap? Or are its parts all interconnected in a meaningful way, a system?
Here's a super simple example. A bowl of nuts is a heap. You can add a nut, you can take one out, it's still a bowl of nuts. Nothing really changes. But a car? A car is a system. If you remove the battery, the whole thing fails. A car's most important features, like its ability to drive, don't come from any one part, but from how all the parts work together. It's the relationships that define the system.
And that really brings us right back to the beginning. Our digital world is a system. It's more interconnected than anything we've ever built. We can see all the parts, the tech, the new generation, the cultural shifts. The real question now is, how do we understand the relationships between them to build not just a more connected world, but a better one?